From Olympic City and the home of Pikes Peak, this is the Automotive ADHD Show. Oh yeah, here we are rocking it for another great edition of the Automotive ADHD Show. I am Matt West, gearhead, car guy, whatever you want to call me. Though I am told apparently I am the host of this show, and got a loaded show in the works for you today. And now the thing is, like, how do you even begin, though? You know, I was sitting down doing my prep for this week's show, and it's like, how do you even begin to top the show from last week? I don't know. In fact, I mean, last week I had special guest, 19-year-old entrepreneur successfully running a detailing business with several employees, and he's branching out to selling detailing products, all sorts of cool stuff. Really got some insight of how, you know, he thinks about business, cars. It was a fantastic show. His name, by the way, is Sebastian Wolfgram. And yeah, and you know what? If you missed last week's show, you should definitely check it out. Just go back one episode here in your podcast feed and give that a listen. It was really cool. I was very grateful to have Sebastian as well on the show. And yeah, so how do I top that? I don't know if it is possible to top that, but I will say that I do have some cool stuff to talk about today. Going to be talking about a gas station that's being sued for selling their gas too cheap. What? Yeah, also, General Motors is recalling a bunch of cars for headlight issues, and we're going to talk a little bit about how headlights, especially modern headlights, the LED ones, work, and why they kind of suck more. That's going to be interesting. Also, this might come as a shock to some folks, but jumping your Tesla 50 feet in the air for internet clicks and crashing into other people's cars is bad manners. And it's also really illegal. So we're going to get into that. I'm sure if you've spent any time on social media that you have probably seen what I'm talking about. But I'm going to give you my thoughts, my perspective on that, and also why it's completely ridiculous. And stunts like this on the internet, I don't know if they'll ever stop. Perhaps they should, though. Perhaps they should. Now, of course, going to talk about all of that and get into your car sounds here on the show. I have some awesome ones that I'm really excited to play that you have sent in. So that's going to be really cool. Anyway, ladies, gentlemen, AMC Javelins, before we get into any of that, I have to talk about NFTs again. I've mentioned NFTs before on this show. Non-fungible tokens. They are essentially digital works of art or images that have a specific, basically they have a digital way to make sure they cannot be necessarily replicated and that they are unique. Think of, you know, owning a piece of art, you own that only piece or a limited edition collector's item. The idea is to digitize that and, oh gosh, well, the newest NFT craze now, it's a NFT. It's an image of a Acura Integra, the new one, by the way, so it's already worthless in my opinion. No, I'm kidding. It is the new Integra, and it's all shiny and in gold, like the whole thing is gold, and it's sitting in some water with some artsy background. I don't really understand it. It's very odd. Now, this NFT is selling, though, for $37,000. Let that sink in. 37 grand. Oh my gosh. I don't understand this. So now this is part of Acura was the original creator of this NFT. The Acura themselves, they made 500 NFTs for the launch of the Acura Integra, the new one again. And I talked about the new Integra months back on this show. My thoughts on it were, I'm happy that it is a, you know, not a naturally aspirated, rather, a manual transmission. Don't ask me how I mix those up. But it is a manual transmission, sedan with a turbocharged 4-cylinder. You know, it's a sporty sedan. I mean, that's kind of cool. We don't have enough of those in our market. So my take was, well, that's cool. But come on, it's still not as cool as the original Integra. Just, you know, my 2 cents there. But anyway, Acura issued these 500 NFTs to people who put in reservations for the Integra, the first 500 people. Now, the funny thing is only 167 people have actually taken advantage of this, and I guess you could say cashed out these NFTs, or NFT stuff is weird. I have a hard time talking about it. It's weird. How do you contextualize this? I don't know. 167 people who have actually, collected on their NFT, I guess, and they have it now. It's a pretty low number. I'm sure more than 500 people, or 500 for sure, have reserved an Integra, and only 167 of them cared to do this silly NFT thing. But the point is, one of these people who did do it is now trying to flip said NFT. It hasn't sold yet for $37,000, but just the fact that they're even asking that much money for it. I might go ahead and share this on the Automotive ADHD Facebook page, facebook.com/Automotive ADHD. If you want to see this NFT that I'm talking about, it's not even that interesting. I don't get it. And also, for some reason, the car is, the golden Acura Integra is sitting on a pedestal in a lake, and the pedestal is like made out of some sort of fur. I'm trying to describe this to you in real time, and there's like floating Tic Tacs in it. Like there's like floating gold orbs throughout the photo that are exactly the shape of the Tic Tac candy mints. And this is really bizarre. NFTs are strange. No, I would not pay $37,000 for this. Also, considering that the actual car that is being depicted in the image, the car, the real car, not like the NFT version of it, the actual car is supposed to be starting somewhere around the $30,000 mark. So that is basically meaning that this NFT, this photo, this image of a 3D rendered version of the car, someone's asking more than the whole car. I don't know. And, this is not the first time I've talked about NFTs on the show. I've also talked about it was a Lamborghini that was exploded by, quote, air quotes, artists for the sake of digitizing the exploded pieces and then selling them as NFTs. And I imagine they've made more money than that Lamborghini is worth. So I'm not saying this isn't a profitable venture. I'm just saying it's a silly adventure. And, hey, you know what? It's your money. If you want to spend it that way, be my guest. You can't drive the NFT, though. You can't drive it. So, I don't know. That's really weird to me. So, anyway, go look at it, the Facebook page. It's weird. Now, aside from NFTs, let's talk about General Motors for a moment. They have announced that they are recalling 740,000 SUVs because the headlights, get this, if you've ever, been in front of one of these vehicles and they've been glaring down in your rearview mirror, get this, the headlights are too bright. Yeah. Oh my gosh. I drive low cars a lot, and any truck, SUV, larger sedan, or anything, I don't know, larger than a bicycle tends to be blinding to me in a low car. But that's, one could argue that's my own fault. But having said that, what's interesting here is they're recalling these SUVs because the perceived brightness of the headlights is too much. And what's fascinating is I read an article, and hat tip to Henry Grabar from the Slate.com, and he went into a whole kind of explanation with several experts, a light scientist, as well as the director, John Burlow, the director of Light and Health Research at Mount Sinai Hospital in New York. So he really did his research on this, but what they found is that the manufacturers, right, have a certain requirement that the headlights must be a certain amount of lumens to be passed by the Department of Transportation and to be safe for the road here in America, okay? And now I know I have a good chunk of listeners listening in other countries, but this is just how it works here in the United States. So I can't speak to Finland or Sweden or wherever, but I can say this is how they do it here. Now, the interesting thing is the scientists found that the lumens, again, it's a set measurement basically to determine the output of a light. The lumens of a light can be the same even though the perceived brightness can be higher. And this is fascinating because what they found is when headlights are a orangish, yellowish color, I guess a tungsten sort of color, you could say, like incandescent color, rather, I think would be a good way to put it. Older halogen style headlights. And say you have a set lumen, say it's 100 lumens, and then you have an LED headlight that has a bluer tint to it, a white to a bluer tint. Well, mechanically and strictly scientifically speaking, that can also have a 100 lumen output as registered by a device that, can measure these things. And what they found is that by by having those differences in the color of the light can actually change the human perception of how bright and how intense that light is, which is really interesting. And they found that LED headlights have a perceived brightness substantially higher than that of old school halogen headlights. And that is part of the issue. There have been a lot of complaints specifically relating to these GMC, I believe it was the Terrains. And what they found is that, people were complaining, several complaints to the government, that these headlights are just too darn bright. They are blinding. And General Motors was arguing that, well, they meet the governmental requirement and that nothing should be changed. Well, the government has now forced General Motors to issue a recall for said headlights still. They said, yeah, you know what, these look pretty bright. Now, I think the issue is not that General Motors made them wrong, not that, necessarily that the government, gave them the wrong number. I think the issue is partly that, we don't have with this new information, this new scientific information, we don't have the whole story when it comes to how bright lights are. So this is just something that is fascinating. Yeah, there's an automaker doing a recall. We hear about recalls all the time. That's not all that interesting, but it is interesting when you go into the rabbit hole and see kind of why this exists. Now, Mark Ree, a light scientist from Mount Sinai in New York, explained this. He said, quote, imagine a car with two headlights, one halogen, one LED. Then they both meet the requirements. The light meter would say they are the same, but the LED would look 40% brighter, end quote. So that's basically what they're saying they found in their studies about this, that perhaps the way we measure headlights and light output is wrong. And why does this matter to you and me as the average driver? Because holy crap, headlights are freaking bright when they are right in your face. Now, that's not to mention, too, having your headlights properly aimed is one piece of maintenance I know virtually no one does. And some places in vehicle inspections, road safety inspections, they require that. But pretty much anywhere here in the United States, that is not a requirement in any way, shape, or form. And after a couple of years, the aim of the headlights can become it can, get pointed up. It can get pointed down. You get this weird cross-eyed look. Hey, you know what? Aiming your headlights should be a fairly regular service, especially when you have a big truck here in the United States. Oh my gosh, there are so many trucks on the road, and I feel like the headlights almost look like they're, 5 or 6 feet off the ground, and in some cases they actually are. And so I wouldn't say this is uniquely an American problem, but I would say that we probably run into this more often. So imagine that you're driving a pickup truck, and I don't mean semi-trucks, I mean pickup trucks. If you're driving a pickup truck and your headlights are already too bright because they're LEDs, and we don't have the way we measure the brightness of them is antiquated. It's not counting for that extra factor there. And then you combine that with having a truck, and the headlights are pickup truck, and the headlights are like chest height when you're standing up. And, and then maybe combine that even further with the fact that, it's been 5 or 6 years and those headlights have been bumped out of alignment now and are pointing up instead of down at the road where they should be. So I don't know. The public service announcement here, I could say, is adjust your darn headlights. And it's not hard on most cars. It's like a screw on the back of the headlight housing or where the headlight mounts, the headlight mount itself. So you know what? There you go. If you want brighter headlights, though, especially off-road, I'm all for that. In fact, on my Jeep, I have a big LED light bar because I like to be able to turn the sun on at night, which is it's occasionally nice when you're off-roading on the trail, but you might want to avoid doing that on the street. I don't know. But hey, coming up, I got some other good stuff. Going to be talking about how a gas station was sued for selling gas too cheap. Is that really a problem we have now? Apparently is. I'll tell you about that coming up.
Did you know there's a rare but serious condition affecting 1 out of every million? Most are born with it, and despite decades of research, doctors struggle to find a cure. The truth is, thousands of people simply don't know what cars are. For those affected, things are grim, but recent developments show promising success. New clinical trials using breakthrough audio technology have shown a 69% improvement in patients with the most severe symptoms. Treatments vary, but one day we may see a cure. More information is available at throttlewarrior.com.
Oh, yeah, there we go. That is Brad Stapp again. That is the second car sound he sent in, and he recently sent in a sound of his Chevy Silverado with the turbo LS V8 doing a burnout, and that now is the same vehicle sans exhaust. Yeah, he doesn't have he's got a different exhaust on it. Sounding mean. Oh, that is cool. I like the idea of fast trucks. That's fun. And now that said, if you want to send your car sounds into the show, have them featured right here. Tell your friends about it. You can email me your car sounds, matt@throttlewarrior.com, or you can also post them on the Automotive ADHD Facebook page, facebook.com/Automotive ADHD. You know, I was looking at the, there's a pinned post I have at the top of the page where you can comment with those car sounds. And I was just scrolling through there now. After several months of doing this, I'm amazed at how many different car sounds there are, how many different folks have sent those sounds in. And it's just a whole thread of degeneracy now and people doing burnouts and donuts. And I think that is fantastic. So if you want to get in on that action, if you want to see some of this stuff as well, the cars that I am mentioning here on the show, go check out that thread. It's honestly really cool. I was showing some of my friends a few of the things that are on there, and all of it is fantastic. So yeah, feel free to send those car sounds in. I'm really excited to play them on the show. Oh, and before I forget, when you send those car sounds in, you are entered for a chance to win a $25 AutoZone or your favorite parts store gift card. And you are also, and with that gift card, you are going to also win a Automotive ADHD key tag. Yeah, it is stylish. It is practical. It helps you fish your keys out of your pocket, and it tells your friends that you have degenerate, terrible tastes in podcasts. But hey, what can I say? I'm doing my part to help out. And so yeah, if you do want to win those things, I do that drawing at the end of every month. Now, the reason I'm not doing a drawing right here is because we are going to have a slightly weirder month with the way the month has lined up. I want to be able to give folks a little bit more extra time to get those car sounds in before I do the drawing. March here, we have for the month of March, we come short by a couple of days. So I'm actually going to do the drawing for March on the first show in April. That's going to be April 3rd going into Sunday. So there you go. That's when I will draw the next round of winners. So get those car sounds in if you want a chance to win. Now, I definitely have to talk about gasoline. It is the thing that makes all of our cars run, unless you are one of the folks listening who owns an electric car, which is totally fine. Electric cars are fun. I do like them. Yeah, I've explained my opinion on those several times now here on the show. They are fun cars. I am always a pro-consumer choice type of person. I don't think we should necessarily ban gas cars because we have to have electric. Let's just have it all. Let's just, let the consumers at the end of the day pick what they want. And that said, anyway, that's a topic I have covered in great detail, and you know that for sure if you are a regular listener of the show. Now, that said, gasoline, it has been more expensive now than virtually, I won't say ever, but it's getting up there. It's definitely getting up there. Some parts of the country are seeing upwards of $7 a gallon. We're seeing averages almost touching the $5 a gallon mark, which is pretty darn high. And that has resulted in a lot of folks stealing gasoline, which is rude. You shouldn't do that. And that I talked about that as well in a previous show about gas thefts, people drilling into gas tanks. Well, now the thieves are just they're just going straight for the gas stations. Yeah, this happened up the road for me, about an hour up the road from where I'm at here in Colorado Springs. In Aurora, Colorado, there was a gas station there that had $50,000 worth of gas stolen by thieves in the night. And what the thieves did, this is fascinating to me at least, I don't condone this, but I think their methods are fascinating at least, is they went to the pumps and they somehow accessed one of the menus on the gas pump that was for maintenance and service. And they were able to turn on the actual pump itself, start pumping gas up from the tank without actually paying any money for it. And that's one of those things that's, to me, it doesn't surprise me that gas pumps can be, a lot of people are saying that the gas pumps were hacked. I don't think that's necessarily accurate. I do believe that these folks just used methods already built into the gas pump that are meant for the maintenance crews and the technicians to be able to activate certain things and test things. And I think they exploited that. And that said, though, it's still a tragedy. I mean, the gas station owner had $50,000 worth of gasoline stolen from them. And sure, they have insurance for this sort of thing, but come on, that just kind of blows. Now, that said, too, a lot of people quick to criticize this say, well, they're big gas station chains. They got the money. Don't worry about it. But the fact is, a lot of gas stations, be it your here in Colorado, we have a lot of Shell brand gas stations, Circle K brand, Sinclair brand, these different brands, right? And you see these major chains. Well, these major chains are actually owned by usually small business owners, small family ownership. Even though they might be a big chain gas station, it's a lot like how your McDonald's, your Wendy's, your In-N-Out fast food places work. They're usually local franchisees, local business owners who purchased franchise rights to then build that franchise and use that branding. And they are, at the end of the day, the ones on the hook for the money. As a corporation, a lot of these big gas stations aren't just opening them. No, they're selling franchise rights to individual business owners. That's why a lot of times you have in a major city, you might have, say, I don't know, how about 2 Conoco brand gas stations across the street from each other, the same brand right next to each other, 2 7-Elevens. And in some ways, that sometimes happens. And that's not because, the company is just an idiot and they didn't know they built one gas station next to the other. No, it's an individual business owner. And they paid for the licensing and the franchise rights. So when you're stealing that $50,000 worth of gas, I think a lot of people who do criticize this saying, yeah, you're stealing it from big oil, the big companies, when, I don't know, in reality, those are business owners. Those are local folks who got kids in, the local schools and whatnot. So that's just my take on it right there. I think the rule of thumb here is don't steal gas. That is rude. Now, are there any solutions to this? Aside from redesigning the pumps and creating a higher barrier of security for these maintenance modes on the pumps, which that's a great idea, or at least creating some more security to access those functions on the gas pumps. That's tough. I mean, that's up to, at the end of the day, not just the designer of the gas pumps, but that's also up to the business owners themselves to facilitate that change and, get the pumps changed out. And that could be really expensive. So, and that said, I mean, what else can we do about it? I mean, the gas stations, worst case scenario, I could see gas station operators just turning off the remote pay feature and disabling a lot of the electronic management features of the pumps and just saying, nope, you got to come inside to pump. There's no other way to do it. You got to come inside to pay, like you would with cash, and then go back out and pump. And that's only a half-baked solution. I think that would result in just more people walking into gas stations and then robbing the clerk there at 2 a.m. instead of just hacking, quote unquote, the gas pump. I don't know. It's not, I can't necessarily say that there's a good solution to this, as just a mere humble talk show host here, but I definitely think that is something come on, people are struggling for gas as is right now. If you're stealing it, that's pretty rude. Now, moving on from that, I also want to talk about there's a gas station in Waukesha, Wisconsin called Woodman's. It was a local gas station franchise. Speaking of franchises, they are now being sued. They are being sued for selling gasoline too cheap. Is that a real thing? Can you get sued for selling gas too cheap? Now, this comes from the local ABC News affiliate in Waukesha, WISN, and they looked into this and started investigating it. And it turns out in Wisconsin, apparently, you can get sued for selling gas too cheap. Wisconsin, as a state, has the Unfair Sales Act, which is to essentially protect businesses from competition trying to undercut the market so hard that they drive everyone else out of business. And now, that said, this gas station wasn't selling gas monumentally cheaper. It looks like it was only about 20 cents cheaper than its competition across the street. But that 20 cents a gallon cheaper, that discount was more than enough to get people lining up, waiting in line at this gas station when the other gas stations had no business. Now, what is my take on this? My take is that they should be able to set their gas price wherever they can sustainably operate their business and manage their overhead, their wholesale gas prices, their utilities and things like that. And the other gas stations, and here I am just talking about how they're small businesses, they have to contend with this stuff. But in a lot of ways, if you make a jump as a business owner and decide to undercut the market knowing you make less profit, but by making less profit per gallon, you generate 20 times as many customers and you end up offsetting some of that cost. Now, that said, some of the competing gas stations in that area decided to file a lawsuit against this franchise for $80,000, which, again, I'm trying to take a position of pseudo-neutrality here because I just talked about how gas stations are small business owners and they have all these things to contend with, and they're not major corporations. They're owned by their franchises of these corporations, but they're not necessarily big companies themselves. And but that said, too, suing your competitor because they found a way to manage their costs so that they could charge less for gas and therefore acquire more customers and ultimately make more money. I don't know if that's necessarily playing dirty, and then by suing them after the fact, because you're kind of butthurt that they were doing that might be kind of playing dirty there. So, you know what? I will say, with gas prices such as they are, even here in the U.S., we don't have it the worst. I mean, there's some places in Europe right now that are way more reliant, and I talked about the reasons behind these gas price increases and the whole issue with Ukraine. I did a whole show on that a few weeks back. Great show. You got to listen to it, by the way, if you haven't. Scroll down in your podcast feed, and you will find it. Now, a lot more places were more reliant on foreign gasoline, and they're having an even harder time than we are here in the U.S. So I would say, you know what, as a consumer, anytime you can get the gas cheaper, and if the owner of the gas station can float the cost, you know what, I would have to lean towards being for that, because that's helping people out in a time when gas is expensive and we're all just trying to get places and go places. I mean, even aside from being car enthusiasts as you and I may be, at the end of the day, the gasoline, that's important stuff right there. So anyway, getting on with some more topics. This has been a crazy loaded show. I got more stuff to talk about. We're going to talk about flying Teslas and how they're probably not suited for flight. That's coming up next.
Every day, thousands go without the ability to buy necessary and life-saving parts. Parts like turbos, coilovers, and wheels.
I'm Steve, turbocharged BRZ. It doesn't run because I can play with my connecting rod through the hole in my block.
Project cars sit unfinished, waiting for parts, collecting dust.
My name is Todd, and I bought a rotary.
It's okay, bro. We'll swap it.
But no more. You, yes you, can make a difference. For as little as $5 per month, you can put an end to Project Cars suffering and support your favorite podcast. Patreon.com/Throttle Warrior. Donate now and receive special perks. Sponsored by Autoholics Anonymous and the Speed Council.
Yeah, there we go. That is Mike and his boosted S13 hatch with an SR20 swap. It's got a forged bottom end, 320 wheel horsepower on pump gas. How cool is that? That, by the way, not only was that Mike's car, but that was sent in by his buddy and listener of the show, New Long Lore. I want to thank both of you gentlemen for sending those car sounds in. Keep them coming. And of course, if you want to enter for your chance to win the $25 gift certificate and the keychain, I'll be drawing that next week. Send those sounds into the Facebook page. Now, you are, of course, listening to the Automotive ADHD show, heard on the radio in Southern Colorado, as well as around the world as a podcast. Now, before I talk about flying Teslas, oh man, that's a can of worms. Before we get into that, though, someone on YouTube found the last remaining American Motors dealership in Pikeville, North Carolina. This is cool. So American Motors, AMC, is a defunct car company that was one of the competitors to the big three, Chrysler, General Motors, and as well as Ford. And they duked it out. They did good for, I won't say that's an overstatement, but they duked it out for 30 years with the big three. And you know what? They made some iconic cars, the Javelin, the Pacer. They also made, the AMC Gremlin, American Motors. They're one of my favorite car companies. And, one of my favorite car companies is a dead one. How cool is that, right? No, I do own two of their products though, an older Jeep as well as a AMC Hornet, which is sort of like a long Gremlin. It's like the front half of a Gremlin, but with 4 doors. Is a Gremlin a short Hornet or is a Hornet a long Gremlin? You know what? The world may never know. But that said, there's a YouTuber who discovered a bunch of AMC cars parked out in a field in North Carolina and decided to go into the history of it and reach out to the owner, who is the son of the now owner was the son of the then owner of the dealership. And it was called Collier Motors AMC. And it's just really, really neat seeing some of these old cars. It's a really long video too. If you do want to see this, it's about an hour long. Maybe just put it on the background and do other stuff. But it's really cool going car to car, seeing some of these cars that were on this now abandoned dealership. It's all overgrown with trees and plants, and there's bushes growing out of these AMCs. There's a bush growing out of one of mine, actually, now that I think about it. But that said, the cars are really neat. Some of them were actually even new stock at the time when the dealership closed, and just parked there. It just left them there. Barely any miles on the clock. I mean, that is prime pickings to have someone go out there and dig a couple of those cars out and try to get them running, maybe restore them. I don't know about restoring some of them. American Motors, I will say, of all the 70s car interiors, I think American Motors probably had the least good. I don't want to say worse, so least good, we'll say. The bodies were okay. They tended to rust. I mean, everything from the 70s rusted. But no, the engines, the drivetrains. I mean, when you look at the classic AMC straight six, the 252, that they put in the Jeeps, which later became the 4.0 high output once Jeep went under Chrysler's ownership, the venerable, indestructible 6-cylinder, inline 6, 4-liter Jeep engine. I mean, that all boils down to American Motors. They make a good, I won't say a powerful powertrain, but they made a reliable one for an American car, and that is cool. AMC will always have a special place in my heart. So if you want to see that video, it's really cool. Facebook.com/Automotive ADHD. Now, without procrastinating any longer, let's talk about that flying Tesla. If you've been on social media, I guarantee you have seen this. You have seen clips of it, perhaps on YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, any form online. The internet has been abuzz with this flying Tesla. And basically this happened in California, where there's lots of hilly roads. And I'm not even going to say the gentleman's name, and I'm not even going to say the YouTuber's name who posted this, because I don't really want to encourage this sort of behavior or give them the credence and publicity that they are desiring by doing this. So just know that I am not going to be mentioning any names here. I don't feel like promoting that. So that said, though, they decided to take this Tesla and go to the bottom of one of these really hilly neighborhood roads, like darn near vertical neighborhood road, because they have that in parts of California, and then jump the car. And they got the car up to a pretty reasonable speed. Apparently, there were several passengers in the car, as well as a cat for some reason. You can't see it because this is audio, but I'm holding my hands in the air in a confused gesture. There was a cat in there. I can't explain that one. Now, the good thing is the cat was unharmed. The passengers were unharmed. No one, when the Tesla landed, no bystanders on the sidewalk and the road were injured. That's all good stuff. That is. There was some substantial property damage, though. So you can imagine here, and if you've seen the videos, the Tesla goes jumping in the air, probably soars horizontally at least 50 feet, getting a good amount of vertical air as well, and then crash lands on its nose, slides into a bunch of parked cars. This all happened at night while presumably 50 other YouTube vloggers were all filming it at once. And the thing with doing these sort of viral stunts like this is it's one thing to do the stunt and knowing that it's a stunt and taking some of the precautions and not doing it on public roads and not doing it next to people's parked cars on the street. And it's another thing to just do it for the gram, do it for the Vine. Well, there we go, dating myself there. The Vine, that's not around anymore. Doing it for the TikTok, I guess. So this is one of those things that it's just not a good idea. It's just not a good idea. Like, I've talked on this show about Tesla destruction in the past. I have. There was a guy who blew up his Tesla to make somewhat of a statement about Tesla's repair and self-repair and getting parts and things, and how Tesla kind of doesn't let you do those things. Well, he blew his Tesla up in a quarry with all of the, proper safety and precautions and fire crews present, and did it on, not a public road. And granted, I thought, my opinion, I believe at the time was that, there was probably a better use for that car than just blowing it up for internet clicks. But that said, he did it safely. It was his car, private property. You know what? Blow your car up if you want to. That's not what happened, though, with this Tesla flying through the air. Now, that brings to another question about insurance. A lot of people were talking about that. Like, well, he must have insurance. He's just going to write the car off. Well, it turns out the Tesla was rented, and apparently the guy did have the extra rental insurance coverage. But just because you have the rental insurance coverage doesn't mean they're going to cover acts of deliberate destruction. A lot of insurance policies, if you read the policy, don't cover things where you deliberately destroy your own vehicle. And I'm pretty sure jumping it for the sake of jumping it, this was not I didn't notice the hill type of thing. He started at the bottom and went full speed up it. And there are dozens of videos from different angles too, because there were so many YouTube vloggers there filming this incident. So I have a feeling the insurance is probably going to deny this claim, and that the rental company is going to come after the guy for the $150,000 that a fully kitted out, optioned out Model S might come with. They're going to come after the dude for it. Then he's going to presumably try to file the insurance to his personal insurance, which is also then going to decline it. And this is going to suck for the guy who did it. I don't imagine he got $150,000 worth of ad revenue from the YouTube video, or from the YouTube videos, plural, that said. Now, also, the thing is, there was a gentleman who had his Subaru rear-ended by this Tesla when it came down, and he's now started a GoFundMe page because his car was damaged in this incident, and he can't necessarily go after this guy's insurance because, well, this guy's insurance is going to be denying this claim as well. So a lot of folks, though, have been criticizing the guy on GoFundMe for wanting to have his car insured, or to have set up the GoFundMe to repair his car, because they're like, well, that's what insurance is for. And here in the United States, we have comprehensive insurance and we have liability insurance in most cases. And I will say I have had experience with this, dealing with insurance a fair amount. I have been in a few number of car crashes, none of them my fault. I've gotten unlucky, but I did have the misfortune once to be crashed into by an uninsured driver, and got to see how that process works. And it's pretty lengthy. Let me tell you that. But that said, if this guy who had his Subaru hit by the dude jumping the Tesla for the viral video stunt, if he had liability insurance only, that only covers liability. His liability. If he causes damage to someone else's car or property with his vehicle, that liability insurance will cover that. If he has comprehensive insurance, the way that works is that the insurance company, he can file a claim against his own company, and then they will pay out and fix that. For instance, if he caused an accident, they would still pay him out, but probably increase his rate and do some other things. No, nothing is free. You're not just gaming the system and making money from the insurance company. That's not how they operate. So, long story short, you know what? Not to be on a downer, on a bad topic. No, it's not. But it's, if we are going to go full Dukes of Hazzard with Teslas, and I am all for this. I'm for going Dukes of Hazzard with whatever you want to jump. Just don't do it in a way that hurts other people and or their property and or endangers people on public roads. That's probably your best thought. I have jumped cars before. I will say that it is exceptionally violent being a passenger in a car that's being jumped, and but I have only done so off road and in sub $500 cars. Safe would be a little bit of an exaggeration. Safe for anyone else standing around it. I'll put it that way. So there you go. And look, if you want to live out your dreams, being Bo Duke, jumping cars, except Teslas, I guess. You know what? If you're doing it safe, you got the money to burn. I can't stop you. Unlike this scenario, though, this was pretty reckless, and I would advise against it. Now, by the way, I do want to thank you for joining me on this fine edition of the podcast. Of course, I also want to thank those of you who came over as well from the radio show. And by the way, if you want to share your thoughts, share your car sounds, get entered for that chance to win the gift certificate and the keychain, you can do that. Send those car sounds into the Facebook page, or you can email them to me, matt@throttlewarrior.com. And next week, I should have a really fun show in the works. I'm working on getting a great guest who is making a documentary about grassroots racing and why some racetracks are possibly disappearing. And this is really cool. I'll keep you updated on the Facebook page as well once I get that guest here in studio. So you want to listen next week for that. Now, remember to also subscribe to this podcast wherever fine shows and this one are downloaded. And I'm on Spotify, Amazon Music, iTunes, all of the above. Remember to give it a rating as well. Now, I will see you same time, same place next week when I lose to Takumi on the downhill. That was a tough race. I'll see you then.